Hey guys, welcome back to Predictapalooza. In this installment, we shall be firing up Brian's Princess set, which is the one that has the unfortunate vertical crack on the plastic screen cover, but the inside, and really the cabinet and everything else except the screen cover, is in remarkable condition. I believe this is the cleanest, most original chassis I've ever worked on. Just remarkably nice. Even all the colors on the wiring, this thing looks like it was made yesterday once I brushed the dust off of it, so I have high hopes that this set is going to work very well. Also, I hope we will be finishing the cleanup and assembly on my set with the bent neck, and I potentially have a solution to that problem. Since we last left off, I've been working on cleaning up some stuff, including the arms. As I've mentioned previously, the arms and, well, let's just focus on the arms. As near as I can tell, from all the experimenting and polishing and such I've done, they are made of mild steel that is chrome plated, and then either a super thin brass plating followed by some type of lacquer coating, or it's just tinted lacquer with no brass plating whatsoever. Some stuff for sure is brass plated, some stuff is solid brass as far as the trim goes, but this, I'm more inclined to lean towards it being tinted clear coat of, well, I mean, a tinted coating of some sort. I say that because it comes off so easily. You can practically just use a thumbnail and scrape it off, and the color comes off with it. So this is one that's just been in evapor rust, and it still has some of the brass tinge to it. And here's one that I just lightly polished with some Noxon metal polish, and the yellowish color's just about gone. It's only a little bit left on one end where I haven't polished it yet. It is possible it's super thin and I just polished it off, but I've dealt with brass plated stuff before, and it's not that fragile where just a slight polishing completely removes it. But so what are we left with after all that? Well, we're left with a chrome-plated piece of steel, and what's typically the condition on these is the chrome plating is pretty deteriorated. If we look close, say at this elbow here, it's almost like it's bubbling up, flaking off, and that's because the steel below is corroding, and it's causing the chrome to start popping off. Now, what I don't know is why is it so common for the chrome plating to be coming off on these and oxidation to have set in. Sure, it could be a cheap steel alloy, but would that cause corrosion when it's been plated and coated so readily? I don't know. But that's the situation. Unfortunately, to replate these, as far as I know, you need to remove the chrome plating, and that is not easy to do. Maybe you can with chemical means, but by just grinding it, filing it, buffing it, it's tough to get off, and that's why they chrome plate things. That's a very durable coating. So what am I going to do? For right now, I'm just going to leave it. But I've been having better luck with just painting these. Metallic paints seem to get better and better all the time. So what about 2 years ago, I did 2 sets. One of them I painted, and one of them I got all the chrome off, polished up the steel, and put some brass back on it. The end results between the two, they didn't look a whole lot different. So that's why I'm inclined to go with painting until such time as I have a good brass plating company that I can work with. I know guys that have had them brass plated. It is not cheap. It is not easy. And a lot of that I think has to do with the prep. Because if you sent this out to a plater they need to get all the pitting off, all the old plating and chrome off before they can replate it. I've heard that I either have to do a nickel plating or a chrome plating before brass or something to that effect. Because if you just brass plate steel, as I found out, it's not shiny. If you want that really brilliant brass shine, like you can kind of see a trace of on the end maybe, you need to put it over something super bright like chrome or nickel. So we're talking hundreds of dollars is what it comes down to. And also because of all the chemicals involved in the EPA, plating is not quite so simple as it once was. So we're not going to get into that right now. We're going to clean it up, we're going to make it look as nice as we can without going to any extreme lengths, and we'll put it back together. As far as the cabinet goes, just about ready to try powering up Brian's Princess chassis. Let me tell you what I've done. Since I already had the previous set still apart, I took the tuner from that set, which I know is working, and the CRT head unit, which I also know is working, and plugged them into this chassis. That'll eliminate some variables when we try to get this set working. And I plugged in a spare speaker, and the high voltage lead would normally go on this side, but I have it coming in from the little flap door on the other side, and then I plugged everything else in where it would normally connect. That got me thinking, since I'm going to be working on these for a while, it seems I should streamline this process. What do I mean by that? Well, rather than having one of these large, fragile Predicta CRTs up on the workbench where it could get damaged, I could take one of these guys and retrofit it just for Predictas. This is the universal black and white tester. It has a picture tube, it has a yoke, it has a whole bunch of clip leads to plug into basically any set made from the 50s, let's say. Well, I have a spare Predicta yoke or two and some spare plugs and such that I should be able to dedicate one of these so it can easily plug into a Predicta set. More about that in the future. For now, let's give this a try. As usual, we have our trusty PR57 in current mode. I assume this is turned off. So let's give it a click. Current draw looks to be about right. Tubes are glowing. Why am I always doing this, by the way? Well, the filament, the tubes are all wired in parallel. There's a power transformer and filament lead runs over to this terminal strip, and then there's distributed to various points. There's one filament connection here, there's one over here, and then there's a wire from here that goes over to this, and I think the tuner has a separate wire. So there are about 4 different paths for the filament current. Well, 5 I suppose for the CRT that we can't quite see, but that just showed that a whole lot of stuff is right. The power switch is good, and the filament wiring is all sound. So let us proceed to a full power-up test. Alright, oops, cross your fingers and toes, and here we go. I think all these tubes are good. Oh. Current draw looks right. No raster. Let's see, this is the brightness control here. Turning it up. And we have nada. Oops, I missed something. I didn't hook this wire up, which is what gives power to the flyback essentially, so that should make a bit of a difference. That goes to this lug right next to the damper tube. Alrighty, that should make a difference. Here we go. Again. Ah, yes, now we have a raster of sorts. Crazy flickering. Oh, nice and bright. I suspect things are a little off frequency, that's why it's making all those crazy noises. Oh, tuner isn't doing much of anything. Alright, well now I will try feeding in the signal. There we go. Put the picture tube a bit on its side so maybe you can see what's happening. Test pattern generator is on channel 8. I think we are on channel 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm probably doing something stupid. Tuner tubes are glowing. This tuner worked in the other set. I have a signal fed in. I hooked up to coax to the IF board. The output of the IF board is going to the detector input on the main board. I do have the video out signal hooked up. Maybe I got something not quite right with the tuner connections. It's weird though, there's one channel position where it kind of does something, but the rest, nothing. Local distance switch, not gonna do much. Contrast control, not doing much. The volume control is kind of doing something. Well, I will start with doing the basic voltage checks. Oh, I think we had a dirty socket contact because I wiggled the tubes in the IF board and suddenly things sprang to life. Alrighty then. It's weird that I'm getting signal on multiple channels though. Well, let's see, it's here 2, 3, 4. Let's try channel 4. Alright, so that's 4. That's coming in. Let's see, can we lock? So the horizontal frequency is way off, so far I can't even lock. So there is a coarse frequency adjust on the back here. Let's try that first. That's doing it. And right past it, I think. Oh, I forgot to put the AFC diodes in. That's promising though, so that control is responding. We were kind of honing in on the right range. But yeah, I forgot that little selenium rectifier. We'll talk about that more in the beginning. Some of you may have noticed I've been leaving the original seleniums in these sets because honestly they've been working okay, but there are solid state options that probably work a little better, will hold up better over the long term. Alright. Probably could have put that in while the set was running, but why take a chance? It's just two little diodes with a common cathode in one package. It plugs into a socket and it helps the automatic frequency control. Well, it doesn't help it, it's a key component of it. And now we're kind of getting a lock there. Can we get vertical any better? So the hold controls aren't really doing as well as they should be. Or no, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, so there's horizontal. Okay, so horizontal's locking. Horrible test pattern to check vertical because it's just a bunch of vertical lines. Let's try the circle test pattern. Okay, we have a crazy amount of height. And there's also sporadically cutting out, which I don't like to see, but there we go. Alright, so there are two little pots on the back. The first one I already adjusted. That was the coarse horizontal control. The other one is height. Way too much height. Which makes me think at one point there maybe was a weak vertical output tube and they had the height cranked on this thing. Height, linearity, vertical hold, all these controls interact with each other. That's why this thing's going kind of nuts. So I decreased the height, but on the linearity it's terrible and it's very egg-shaped. So. And there we go. Super jittery, obviously. I will try cleaning the controls. Also, our reception isn't quite so good. I don't think all these tubes are tested, so that's something else to do. But other than that, seems to be working pretty well. Beautiful. For a moment. Well, I'm tapping the control harness, horizontal and vertical hold and brightness around this, and I think something's not making the greatest contact because when I tap it, you kind of come back into lock. But it's faint. There's a lot of interference there. It should be solid black and white. We're not there yet. Let's check out contrast. Okay, contrast is working right. Until I double check all these tubes, I'm not going to worry too much about this stuff. Oh. Nope, if I turn the brightness down a little bit, it was up at 100%. When you power these set up for the first time, so it usually takes a little while to shake out all the cobwebs. Well, it seems like sound's working pretty well. Now, how about I do something I haven't been doing for a while? Oh, it's weird the way the tone kind of cuts it out like that. Let's actually feed in some broadcast imaging. I don't think I've done that yet for any of these sets. I've just been doing the test patterns. Part of that is because I always get flagged, it seems, by the copyright patrol when I use real material, but let's briefly give it a try. I'm sure you guys are bored of seeing test pattern. Here it is after tweaking the height a little bit, and the brightness and the contrast, it's working extremely well, except for the jitters. So I am going to go through and clean the controls and wiggle the tubes and clean the tube bases and all that good stuff and see if I can eliminate that problem. Sorry, that's the longest sample I dare show you, or the video will get taken down. Now, as for the sets we got working in the last installment, that's the bent neck one. Unfortunately, after replacing the collar, it's still pretty darn crooked. That's because the cabinet is bent as well, or deformed. I think the actual head might be a little bit too. We'll deal with that later if we need to. So I thought by just swapping out that part it would straighten it, but no. The cabinet got deformed, and that's not so easy to undeform because that hole, there's reinforced steel under welded. There's some like a framework welded down below. That got bent on this cabinet. I think possibly if I get a steel pipe that's about this diameter that's long enough so I get a lot of leverage, maybe I can yank it back over and bend it back. But there's another option. So this is a Debutante cabinet. I bought a couple Debutantes that were in rough shape. One of them especially was missing a lot of stuff. I think between the two of them I could probably make one complete working set, which leaves me with an extra cabinet. So I was thinking maybe I can use this one. The question is, well, you can see the fronts are quite different. This being the budget set, the front is just a piece of grill cloth and then there's a channel plate, whereas this has perforated metal with some aluminum trim, and then it's got this channel plastic piece on the side. So the question is, can I take that off and put all this stuff onto this cabinet? I would also need to drill some holes because that has the stump of an antenna which I plan to rebuild. I'd like to mount it here, and this also has a UHF option, so I need to bore a hole into the side. And this does use a different type of tuner, so I don't know if this opening is exactly the same as that. However, when I felt under here, there's a notch in this, which that has, and that's where that plastic piece fits in. It fits in up here and screws in down here. So we shall see. That would be a nice solution to this, is to just swap things between these two and be done with it. This is also a lot less rusty. On the top is the Princess cabinet with the damage. On the bottom is a potential donor Debutante cabinet. On first blush, it looks like it is going to be possible, but I won't know for sure until I get this off. See, the big difference is on this side. That's where the hole for the channel or for the tuner goes, and there's a piece of plastic on the other side. Notice this looks quite a bit different. It's just got the opening for the channel clunker, and otherwise it's just uniform across with a sheet of cardboard. But otherwise, boy, they sure do look identical. This one's also a bit rusty too, so definitely need to get finished at some point. But hey, it's got all 4 feet. The tuner's different. I hope the holes line up. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they would have wanted to use a common cabinet between models if they could. I never noticed that before. Some Sharpie writing on there, probably from auction or something like that. Quite a bit of corrosion, but it's all, I think, just on the bottom of the cabinet. Must have gotten wet. Otherwise, it's not too bad, I think. Dirty. So, anyways, what do I need to do? I need to take all these screws out. These are the cheapest possible kind of nut, where they're made from sort of stamped out of sheet metal rather than being real forged, or however they make them, solid metal nuts. I think first I go get a vacuum cleaner and clean all this debris out. Now I do have another Debutante, the one that came with this, and that actually I think has a black cabinet, which is kind of intriguing because I could make a black Princess, which didn't exist. Close but no cigar, as I feared. This piece of metal was missing on the Debutante. That's what holds in the logo and channel indicator plate. Looks like this piece of metal, hi Jupes, that was spot welded on back at the factory. But yeah, theoretically, one could bust these welds and transfer the metal over here and weld it onto this, but that's a little beyond what I want to get into right now. So I'll have to just stick with this for the time being. Meanwhile, I scavenged everything out of the Debutante cabinet. Speaker, well, it's seen better days. But unexpectedly, found this, which was odd because the antenna hole is not present on the Debutante, yet this is the antenna holder and ballon and whatnot. I'm not sure why it was there, unless you, no, I'm just not sure why it was there. Well, the models do have an antenna. Obviously, they drill off. Well, there's a hole there, and that's where the antenna comes out. So this is what's underneath on that side. That's a very, very, very good thing. If nothing else, out of this experiment, this was a great find. Why is that, you ask? Because antennas for these sets are one of the hardest parts to source, and they go for a lot of money, and I think they're pretty key. I really like the way that, key to the look of the set, I mean. I really like the way that balances out, or kind of contrasts with the screen. Not there's anything fine with the minimalist look of the Debutante, but I like the antennas. As you can see, this one is sheared off. I think out of all these sets we're currently working on, only one, which is Brian's, the one we're currently working on, that's the only intact antenna. Some of the others are almost intact, but there's a portion broken off, or they don't work right. This one's all there, and it actually still rotates, but it's just gone. So why would I care about this? I mean, after all, there's no antenna, it's just a stump. What am I going to do with that? Well, some long-time viewers may recall that there is a source for the antenna innards. I kind of hate to do this because when I bring it up, it tends to drive the prices up and clear out whatever is currently on eBay. But, well, let's just get to it. These, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I bet you guys have remember these. This one in particular was sold at Radio Shack. It's an Archer. It's an antenna. It's a UHF VHF antenna. And boy, that sure looks kind of similar, doesn't it? Yeah, actually, it's an exact fit. So I can take this antenna base, have to cut it out of the plastic. It'll fit into this. In the past, I've used Zenith chrome antennas. Yeah, chrome antennas. Those are better, and if you're really lucky in search, you find the brass version. Other brands made them too. There probably was just one or two manufacturers, and they just got rebranded. And over the years, the newer they are, the cheaper they are too. So if you get the earlier ones, I think the earlier ones are the ones that are solid brass, whereas this is chrome steel, probably. But it'll do for now. The two most recent brass ones I saw on eBay, I think were around $80. So I think it's known that these can be used in predictors, or maybe these have suddenly become collectible. I don't know. But I believe this Archer one will work. So I'll flip on the back side. And let's compare it to the back side of this. Looks pretty darn similar. Some plastic cylinder with metal coming down the middle and a wire coming out, just like this. So what you need to do is you need to carefully trim around that cylinder to free up the antenna part, and then it just plops into this. And there we have it. I just need to tack a wire from this into the balun assembly, because I will be setting up a home transmitter, so the antenna will actually be used at some point. Now, you only really need to be careful on one edge, because that's where it meets up against this little bit of metal that sticks out. The others, as long as the screw hole's clear, that's good enough. So let's try popping it in the Princess cabinet for a little test run to make sure it fits. And there we have it. Perfect fit. There's usually a piece of trim on here. You can see the outlines of it here. I think these were glued down originally. Sure looks like adhesive residue. And there's some printing on the back. I think it's something manufacturing company. Angle 52, Dayton, Ohio. I don't know. Just a cheap piece of metal stamped out. That'd be something nice to get some replicas made. It's not quite the same as the original. The original is a little bit taller. In the original, you can go 180 with the swivel. This only has a cutout on one side, so I can't swivel it back right now. I have to rotate it around. But hey, I mean, for a few minutes work and a few bucks off of eBay, there we go. And this can come off. I believe they put these on so when you're adjusting the antenna, your hand doesn't affect it because you can hold the plastic. And of course this does extend upwards. Now I expect the price of these will shoot up on eBay and the supply will dry up, but hey, I really wanted to share this tip with you guys. Well, I am back from the early television convention, and once again my plans are shifting a little bit. I was not able to acquire a Predictapalooza cabinet, so for now I'm going to put this on hold a bit and just go with the cabinet as it is, being bent as it is. Get my customer sets done, circle back around to this. I got two thoughts. One, I will get more aggressive about trying to unbend, undeform the Princess cabinet. If I can't though, I think what I'll do is that piece of metal that's on the Princess that the Debutante lacks, I may simply cut it off of the Princess and transfer it over to the Debutante. Perhaps I can use rivets, perhaps screws and nuts, or perhaps I will pick up a cheap spot welder. Meanwhile, I have some more options for you with regards to the antenna. Here's another one that I need to rebuild. This one just has the stump. Well, if you don't want a butcher and archer antenna, it turns out that Kmart also makes them, or made them, I should say. Rather similar. I mean, who knows, maybe one company made all of these and they just specifically branded them for different stores. I mean, the overall design is basically the same, but there are obviously differences. One nice thing about this is this black plastic, so that will match the original black plastic on this a bit better. This one looks like it may have had some kind of brass. Now, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about with the Predictas that I think they used. I'm pretty sure this is not brass plating. I'm pretty sure this is some kind of tinted coating. See, I can just scratch it off with my fingernail, and we're down to chrome. This is not brass plated. So if I polish this up, it's all gonna be chrome. It's not gonna be brass, but that's all right. I mean, you know, to each his own. Originally they were brass, but I think chrome looks kind of nice. Also, if you take those arms and clean off that flaking faux brass coating and polish those up, you can make it with chrome arms and a chrome antenna. And then if I was to say paint the cabinet black, chrome on black can look pretty sharp like this antenna. But there's another option I've got for you guys. Here is yet another Kmart antenna. I think it's a bit older, and this one I do believe is actual brass. I'll need to clean it up a bit to be 100% certain. The fact that it's got a little bit of rust means it can't be solid brass. Is it plating? Is it a faux coating? I don't know. We'll find out. That leads to something I want to mention briefly here. Every time I post a predictive video, I inevitably get questions about where I get parts or how do you do something. Where do you get a fusible resistor? How do you unwrap the wires? Have you ever tried this? Have you ever thought about that? Well, I'm going to make a dedicated video giving you everything I know and have learned and have seen and have been told. The secrets to restoring a Predict, I guess you could call it. But that's really not fair, because a lot of what I know I got from seeing other people's restorations, watching their videos, reading their restoration write-ups online, sharing comments, chatting on Facebook, whatever. And yeah, I do have a little bit of a side business restoring these, but I don't want to be the Predicta guy. I want to work on other makes and models, for sure. So, and a lot of what I know I got from other people. So I don't want to hoard this information. So I'm going to talk about where to get everything and how to do everything that I can think of. I'm also going to put up a dedicated web page on the website I've been putting together with links and whatnot to all the stuff I'm going to talk about. So be looking for that in the not too distant future. Now, actually, I think I'm going to break off this segment right here. I think I have enough footage to make an interesting segment, because I don't know when the next one's going to be ready. There have been a number of things going on, including the early television convention, which was a lot of fun. We're in the midst of a heat wave. We have no air conditioning, as it turns out they broke it when they installed our new furnace. I don't know when it's going to get fixed, probably when the heat wave is over. The workbench has been getting a bit cluttered, so I'm trying to do a little bit of cleanup, including I put a shelf down here and moved some stuff out of the way. When I start reassembling these sets, I want to clear the decks to make sure I don't scratch or damage anything. I'm actually even putting up some shelves and getting some stuff out of the way, so basically regrouping a little bit. So in the next installment, I expect we're going to have one, maybe two sets reassembled and just about ready to go. Thanks for watching.